Welcome everyone to my channel Aditi Storyteller. In my channel, I have many riddles, stories and many more things. Today, I am going to give you the book review of Sudha Murthy, The Serpent's Revenge, Unusual Tales from Mahabharat. After this review, I am going to tell you one of the stories from this book. How many of you know the great epic Mahabharat? Now we are going to know it in more detail in this book. How many names does Arjuna have? Why was Yama cursed? What lesson did a little mongoose teach Yudhishthira? The Kurukshetra war, which forced even the gods to take sides, may be well known, but there are innumerable stories said before, after and during that lend the Mahabharat and its many varied shades. In this collection, award-winning author Sudha Murthy reintroduces the fascinating world of India's greatest epic through these little-known but extraordinary tales, each of which is sure to fill you with wonder and amazement. There are 33 stories in this book. I'm going to tell you one of the stories from this book. The story I'm going to tell you is The Serpent's Revenge. Many years before the war, when Subhadra was pregnant, she had a conversation with her husband Arjuna that would have long-term consequences. Subhadra, there are a number of vyuhas or techniques we can use to stop the enemy from advancing or entering, said Arjuna, trying to explain the many facets of warfare to Subhadra. These viewers have different names and various levels of difficulty. What do you mean? Asked Subhadra. Well, Gauradhava is a formation in which the soldiers stand in a line in such a manner that it resembles a bird Gaurada from a distance. There is another in which a king can be protected in such a way that he remains at the center of the circle while being surrounded by soldiers in a particular formation. The toughest is Chakravyuha, a group of concentric circles arranged in a manner that makes it almost impossible for an enemy to enter it. Even if a skilled opponent somehow manages to make it through the first circle, he would still find it difficult to go deeper because the formation is like a maze. He will go from one circle to another and eventually lose his sense of direction. Only a few can make it through the Chakravyuha and cut to its actual target. This vyuha requires smart thinking and practice. How many people in this world can survive the Chakravyuha? The only people who know to get in and out are my teacher Drona, his son Ashwatthama, grand uncle Bhishma and me. Do you want to learn? Asked Arjuna. Yes, Arjuna, please teach me, said Subhadra and lay down on the bed. Enthusiastically, Arjuna took a handful of grains and instructed his wife to assume that they were soldiers. They created a design with concentric circles. Then he explained the process by which a warrior could avoid the unnecessary circles and determine the direct path to the target. When he glanced at his wife a little later, he found that she was fast asleep, so he stopped his explanation midway. The matter was completely forgotten. After a few months, Subhadra gave birth to a baby boy who was named Abhimanyu. When he reached adulthood, Abhimanyu was married to Princess Uttara. During the time of Mahabharat war, Princess Uttara became pregnant. While Arjuna was busy fighting a border battle, Drona used his knowledge and created a Chakravyuha. When the young warrior Abhimanyu learnt of this development, he told the other Pandavas, "I know how to get in. When I was in my mother's womb, I heard father telling her how to enter the Chakravyuha. Unfortunately, she slept before father could finish, so I don't know how to escape the formation. But I am happy to lead the way, and with your help, I am confident that we can find a way out." With Arjuna nowhere in sight, the other Pandavas agreed and allowed him to lead the way. To their misfortune, Abhimanyu was the only way who managed to enter the Chakravyuha. The Kauravas blocked the other Pandavas from entering. Within minutes, Abhimanyu was surrounded by the mighty Karna, Drona, Ashwathama, Duryodhan and Dushasan, among others, and brutally killed. By the end of the 18th day, only 5 of Draupadi's children had survived. But that night, while they slept, Ashwathama, Drona's son, and Duryodhan's loyal friend mistook them to be the Pandavas and killed them in revenge for his father's death. So the Pandavas were left with no child to call their own except for the one yet to be born to Uttara. When she finally gave birth, the body of the baby seemed lifeless. The Pandavas panicked. Was this the end of the lineage? They prayed to Lord Krishna fervently, who received the infant. The newborn was named Parikshita because it seemed like the little child was testing the dynasty's continuance. Parikshita was raised with a lot of care. Eventually, he became the king and ruled the land in a fair and just manner. He was well liked by his subjects. One day, King Parikshita went hunting with his soldiers. He went far ahead of the troop and wandered into the ashram of sage Shamik, who was meditating and thus completely unaware of his surroundings. Nobody else was present in this ashram in the time. Parikshita was thirsty and desperate for water. He called out for someone to bring him some, but there was no response. Then he saw the sage sitting in the silence with his eyes closed. Parikshita also noticed a dead snake lying in the corner. Thirsty and frustrated, the king assumed that the sage was only pretending to meditate, and in a fit of anger, he picked the dead snake with a wooden stick and put it around the sage's neck. Then he left the ashram. At some time, Sage Shamik's son Shiringi came home to find his father meditating with a dead serpent around his neck. He became really upset. Somebody had obviously tried to insult his pious father. He shouted out a curse. "Whoever has garlanded my father with this dead serpent will die within 7 days of the snake bite." By then, Sage Shamik had opened his eyes. When he learnt of the curse, he said, "Shiringi, you shouldn't curse anyone without knowing the entire story. You must hear both sides. When you lay a curse on someone, you lose some of your power. We are here to help and make a better world. Curses should only be used in exceptional cases." After making some inquiries around the area, Sage Shamik found that it was his beloved King Parikshita who had visited the ashram. He immediately sent some of his disciples to the royal palace to inform the king about his impending death so that he could take care of his affairs. Meanwhile, King Parikshita was already regretting what he had done. He had dishonored a sage of all people. When the disciples informed the king of the curse, he remained calm. He handed over the kingdom to his ministers as his son Janmajaya was still a young boy and decided to spend the remainder of his days by making donations and listening to stories of his ancestors and Lord Vishnu. He requested Sage Shuka, the son of Vedvyasa, to chant the stories. Parikshita's ministers struggled to find a way to save the king. Finally, they came up with a plan. The ministers got a tall pillar built overnight on the banks of the river Ganga, upon which a small house was constructed for Parikshita to stay. The house was surrounded by the best guards in all the kingdom and were given strict instructions not to allow anyone or anything inside. Parikshita had already accepted the curse and knew that it would come true. He was prepared for death. However, he gave in to his ministers' earnest requests and stayed in the house they had built for him. Meanwhile, Sage Shuka and the king sat down every day. Shruka's stories, also known today as the Bhagavad Gita, lasted for a period of 6 days. On the 7th day, a well-meaning visitor sent the king a basket of fruits. When the king cut one of the fruits open, he found a small worm wriggling out of it. Within seconds, the worm morphed into a big poisonous serpent and bit the king before he could take another step. Parikshita died instantly. This serpent was Takshak, the king of snakes, who had taken a vow of revenge against the Pandavas for his family destruction at the Kadavas forest. I hope you liked the story from the book Sudha Murthy, The Serpent's Revenge, Unusual Tales from Mahabharat. Goodbye.